We'll get that little notification to pop up. But yeah, so we're going to go through an LTE training today, focusing on the AEP blackout with some examples around that. But obviously, a lot of the LTE standardization rules are similar across the board. So really excited to learn again from Becca and Chad about LTEs. I think you both know me, so I won't take too much time introducing myself. I'm the volunteer coordinator with Sierra Club Ohio. I use she, her pronouns. We'll definitely have some time for questions and discussion throughout the whole entire session. And with that, I'll pass it to Tamara.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tamara Bowen. I am a community organizer with the Beyond Coal campaign in Ohio. And thanks for joining us today. Should we get right into the LTE that we're working with today? Or the article that we're working with? Yeah.
Let me know what help you all need with any screen sharing. If that's beneficial.
Okay, Becca, did you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hey, this is Becca Pollard. I use she, her pronouns. I am an organizer with Beyond Coal campaign, and I live in Columbus, Ohio, on occupied Shawnee, Miami, and Wyandotte land.
Chad.
My apologies. Chad Stevens, he, him. I'm working with the Beyond Coal campaign as well as the Ready for 100 and a multitude of other entities within the Ohio chapter. And I'm based in Cleveland, but my focus is around the state of Ohio that has brought such great and minds such as Garrett Morgan and Langston Hughes. So with that, if we can go ahead and go into the article tomorrow.
Yes. I should also mention that I am an intern. I can share my screen for the article that we're going to be looking at today. Or actually, can I send you the link, Nicole? I don't have the privilege of sharing my screen.
I already have it.
I'll also put it in the chat for everyone else.
Perfect. How does that look? Do I need to zoom in some? It's on my monitor, so it's kind of big.
Looks good for me.
Same.
Okay. Just let me know if I need to adjust as we go through.
Okay, cool. And if I miss something, please let me know or add any details that I may leave out. So this article is written in July on the 7th. It was basically an interview with the AEP president and the COO and a discussion about the power outages that happened recently. And the president as well as the COO were talking about how the outages were in fact forced, and they were focusing on how to move forward as far as communicating forced outages. And the artist of this article took a really interesting perspective, which I guess many of us are thinking about, that we shouldn't really focus on communicating how we should go about communicating the outages. Instead, we should be focusing on how to prevent outages in the first place. And there was statements that the company has invested hundreds of millions into the system or the electrical system that's there, but somehow we still saw forced outages for whatever reasons. And I guess to make up for that, the AEP was looking to donate $1 million to various aid organizations in the area. So I guess that was their way of doing their part, and they called it being a good corporate citizen. And that was pretty much the end of that article. And then it goes on to talk about the PUCO hearing that was yesterday. Did I leave anything out?
I think he covered it pretty well.
Okay. Yeah, I'll pass it to you now, Becca. Talking about why and how we should write an LTE.
Thanks, tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So, it looks like we've got one more person joining us. That's great. Welcome, David. So, Nicole, could you share the document?
Yes, I just need you to give me access to it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought
You're good.
I did it. Just 1 second.
Welcome, David. I think you were connecting the sound earlier. We are recording this session. Just want to name to you, and we can send it out afterwards if you want the beginning piece that you missed.
Okay, anyone with the link should be able to open the document now, and Nicole is going to share it on the screen for everyone. But yeah, I'm just going to go over guidelines for writing a letter to the editor. But before we dive into that real quick, how many of you joining us have written a letter to the editor before? You can either type it in the chat or come off of mute and tell us. Nobody?
No, I've done some.
Oh, I thought you had, Brian.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you've actually had some published, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I remember you did a really good one last year. Do you have anything you'd like to share about your experience with writing letters to the editor for folks who haven't done it before?
Well, the few that I've done have mainly been in response to something. And what I've tried to do in them is give another set of facts. I remember there was one, for example, there was one where this lady had 2 or 3 letters to the editor written about how much pollution the solar farms would cause. And I had some studies that I had read that gave statistics like, the amount of pollution in the soil under a solar farm would not affect any human in their entire life. And so I just wrote that up and sent it in and closed it with, I'm not sure this was a good closing, but I started out with this letter writer said that solar farms would pollute the ground. This study has shown that it only pollute, you'd have to have the solar cell completely broken and spewing out whatever's in it for an entire human's life to cause any contamination at all. I certainly hope this lady changes her mind.
Mm.
And so it's kind of the rut I got into, was you said this, I found that. I hope you change your mind.
Thank you, Brian. That's a really good example. Yeah, so letters to the editor are a really great way to respond both to articles that you see in your local paper and to other people's letters to the editor if you see one that you disagree with or that maybe doesn't have enough information about something. And you can write one about a topic that's not in the paper, but you're much more likely to get published if you're covering a topic that's been recently run in the paper. So why is writing a letter to the editor an effective tactic? To reach a large audience and educate the community. It's the second most read section of the paper after the front page. It's a good way to address decision makers in a public way, and it shows community support or opposition for a given issue. So like in Brian's example, he used this as an opportunity to educate the community about why solar farms are not dangerous and not going to pollute the soil, like that letter that he responded to had said, and showed support for the issue he was concerned about. Writing an effective letter to the editor, you definitely want to be concise. Most papers will have a word limit for letters. It's typically around 150 to 200 words. Usually if you go to your newspaper's website, you can find instructions on how to write a letter to the editor, and it will include a word limit if they have one. Make one point in your letter. You don't want to try to put every fact about something in your letter. You don't want to try to hit on everything you're concerned about an issue. In that short number of words, it's really difficult to say something effective on a really large number of topics. It's much more effective if you just choose one or two points that you want to focus on and try to really make a strong point about those. Make your letter timely. So you want to respond to something that's been in the paper recently. And if you can't find anything in the paper about your topic, maybe you can find something that you can tie it into. So, for example, something that once we get into talking points a little bit, one thing that we've been discussing is the importance of getting the OVEC coal plant bailouts overturned. And since the legislature hasn't done that, those are some of the bailouts from HB 6 that passed a few years ago. So everyone's paying more on their electric bills right now to keep these two coal plants online. And the Public Utilities Commission could do something about that. So if you wanted to, you could tie that into a letter that you were writing about why you're upset about the AEP blackouts. Make it a personal or local connection. So you want to describe how the issue affects you or your community. So obviously, if your power went out during the blackouts last month, that's something that you would want to mention, that you were directly impacted and how it affected you. For example, did you have to miss work? Did you lose groceries because your refrigerator wasn't running? Things like that. You want to consider sharing an action that people can take. So Brian's example would be that he was hoping that the person who wrote the letter he disagreed with would consider the facts that he shared and change her mind about that topic. But it could be something like urging the PUCO to do a prudency audit about the OVEC coal plant bailouts, or encouraging your neighbors to attend a local event. So then the next section is on logistics. You definitely want to follow the guidelines of the news outlet that you're writing to. And there's a link there to the Columbus Dispatch guidelines, and they actually have a form that you can fill out. So you can either email it to them and just follow the instructions, or you can fill out their letter to the editor form, and it kind of walks you through each step and makes sure you have all the information in there, and that you I think it prevents you from going over the word limit too. So that can be really helpful if you have a form to fill out, but you can just email it if you prefer to. You want to make sure you're paying attention to the word limit, as we mentioned. If you write a longer letter, they may not publish it because of that, but they also might just edit it down to make it shorter. So, you know, that's not the end of the world, but it might be frustrating if you took the time to write a really long letter and then part of it got taken out. So since you won't have control over what they take out, you definitely would probably be better off just writing something that's not over the word limit and not having them take anything out. There are some limitations on frequency of submission. So if you have recently had a letter to the editor published in a particular paper, they may not be willing to publish another letter from you right away. And if you reach out to the editor, they can give you more information about that, whether there is a limitation. Some papers will pretty frequently publish letters from the same people, but that's just something to be mindful of. Add links to facilitate fact checking by the editor if appropriate. So for example, Brian, I don't know if you did this in your letter, but if you didn't, you could have linked to the study so that the editor could go there directly and make sure that what you were saying was factual and that it wasn't just something that you were making up or misinterpreting. That makes it much more likely that the editor will think that your letter is worth publishing. Provide your contact information, and if you fill out the form, it will require you to put your contact information in there. But if you submitted it by email, you do want to make sure that you include your real name so that they can make sure you're a real person, your address and your contact information. They typically will reach out to you before publishing your letter, make sure that you are a real person, and let you know that they're planning to publish it if they are. And if you don't hear from the editor, it's a great idea to follow up with the editor, to call or email them and ask if they are planning to publish your letter. They are more likely to do it if you put a little bit of pressure on them to do that. And then if your letter is published, it's a great idea to cut out the letter in the print edition, or even just print it out and mail it to someone who you are trying to influence. So for example, you could send a clip of your letter to the editor to your senator or state rep if you were trying to influence their decision on something. So yeah, that's kind of my overview of the guidelines for writing an effective letter. And I will pass it. Am I passing back to Chad? Is that right?
I believe it is.
All right.
And if not, I just took over somebody's spot.
Take it away.
So letters to the editor. Thank you, Becca, for that tee up, because it's letters can be an exhaustive process. If you're anything like me and not a natural writer, it can be very time consuming and almost feels like, why am I doing this? But one thing that I've learned over the years is that practice does not make perfect, but it does make accurate. And being able to get in the habit of writing letters makes the process go a whole lot faster. So I when I started out writing letters to the editor, I actually wrote on just responding to almost any and everything in the paper, just so I can get in the habit of writing the letter. Many of them did not get published, thankfully, because I was writing a lot of foolishness. But I was also uh, in the process of learning and honing the skill. So with that being said, you can write some really fantastic letters, and I've seen some great letters. We had a member that recently passed away that was one of the most effective writers for letters to the editor I've ever seen. And it was just no nonsense. This is my opinion, and I'm going to let you have it in a very short and factful way. And I've seen, well, I've actually had a couple friends that are authors never get a letter published. They use too many words to say one thing, and they're very letters of left. Can't speak tonight. They illustrate very well instead of getting to the point. So I just wanted to share those few things, and I'm also going to share my screen because there are some letters. This is a letter that a volunteer wrote back in 2018, and I kept a copy of it simply because it was about the Trump administration's administration trying to do something off the wall regarding the economy and EPA regulations, I believe. So I show this letter because there are a few things that are missing. So most newspapers always follow their guidelines, but most newspapers want to see a couple of things that are missing from this letter. It was a great start because it commented on something that was recently published. It has I'm going to enlarge this a little bit because my eyes are old and weary from staring at these screens 20 hours a day. This letter goes through the talking about how they're giving their feelings and even giving a solution towards the end. But it's missing just a couple key things. And I'm going to show you in the next one. And this is a different letter, and I have it highlighted here of some of the key things that the previous letter was missing. Again, from some of these examples a lot of my examples are from 2018. So this letter has the person's name at the end, has their email, city and state, because some papers want to know that you're a local person. A lot of times, if you're just in Ohio, that's good enough. They don't take too kindly to out-of-state writers. A zip code to help reinforce, like, hey, I am local, I am a real person, and a phone number for them to contact you. If you ever write a letter to like the Cleveland Plain Dealer or the Columbus Dispatch, they will call, especially if it's your first time. If it's about your 20th or 30th time, they may not call because they know they know who you are and they know you're a real person at this point, unless they get somebody new, and then they're going to do their due diligence. But and this letter in this one is just a tad bit shorter in its word count as well, so it was able to pass the muster, and this one actually did get published back in January of 2018. So I just want to give these examples of just a few things to keep an eye out on. But for the most part, you can stay on topic. We often have what's known as, and I couldn't find one, couldn't find my newer example. What's known as not boilerplate language, but drafting language to be able to help you if you want to use certain talking points within your letter. So it's a great, it's always a fantastic way to be able to go into writing a letter. Are there any questions? Because I don't want to go too far and you have questions and I miss them.
Oh,
All right. Hearing none. When we do letters to the editor, there's another one that I wanted to bring up, and I was actually in the dispatch.
Is it the AEP specific ones? Because I have them pulled up already.
Oh, you're fantastic. See, this is why we always need Nicole to be able to help with these things. Thank you.
Just ignore all the crazy ads.
Ton of ads. So going through this letter, we often, you'll see the top line for the letter. It's whatever the editor believes should be the top line. You can suggest what it should be. It's going to get ignored almost 9 times out of 10. So don't worry about what the big bold letters are going to be. Just worry about the content. In this letter is actually, you get straight to the point. It gives the person's opinion because it relates it back to what happened recently in the news, and it gives their opinion about it. And you notice their name, phone number, and all that isn't here. I do believe they give the name at the bottom, yes, but and where they're from. But the phone number and all that's really for the editor, not for publication. So you don't need to worry about it, your information being published all over the internet. So relating it to what's going on, beautiful ways of making the entire experience more enjoyable and readable, and the overall goal of getting it published. Can you go to the next one, please? Thank you. This one, I gotta stop reading the cartoons. I've seen it 100 times now and I still laugh. So this one, again, is a little bit longer, just a tad bit longer, but it's still within the word count. It is still within the structure. Are you all able to see that all right?
mhm.
Okay, just want to make sure. In this letter, we, my apologies, I gotta pull it back up on my, so in this letter, they were really highlighting the how they could have their frustration, and they did it in a I'm forgetting the literary term, but they did it in a solution-based way, with saying, hey, this could have been avoided years ago, And the AEP knew about this a long time ago, and then they went further into how people had to endure the entirety of the process. So it's a little bit more in depth, and there were several letters actually like it, but the big takeaway from this one is relating it to this person was able to relate it from what's happening here in the state all the way to the Supreme Court, which was a very powerful way of connecting dots for people that are often not able to do so. So you can speak to many different things, but if you can do it concisely within one subject area, it's a very powerful way to go about it. And we had one more, didn't we? So I like the examples of 3, but you know what?
I don't know if we did. I mean, there are
Oh.
more on this page,
Yeah,
but
yeah. If
I
you
don't know
can
if they're
scroll, can you scroll down one more?
this one or the next one.
This one.
Okay. Dogs. I'm interested in this.
So here's what I mean by writing something that has nothing to do with what you normally would write about. Many people like dogs, many people like pets. If you want to relate an issue, use the animals. Because how can I put it? If you've ever noticed it when you're walking down, walking in the park or walking anywhere, people are going to speak to the animal before the human, and they'll interact with the animal more because people love their pets and people love other people's pets. And this is a great way of being able to talk about the issues that are affecting us, but in a way that their eyes are going to be drawn to it. A lot of times we don't think about the things that affect us also affect our furry, often 4-legged friends or winged friends, if you have birds or anything. But it affects them just like it's affecting us. So we need to be able to use that correlation, and again, connect the dots, help people's minds be expanded a little bit more. So that's why I really enjoyed that one. So I just wanted to point that out. Animals are a great way to get people's attention. And even if you just mention them like once or twice, that's more than enough to get people's attention in writing letters to that editor. And with that being said, I believe that we are going to share some talking points and maybe even get some drafts going. Yep.
Can you all share access for anyone on the internet can view to the talking points doc?
Everyone should be able to access that now.
Thank you.
Okay.
Do you want me to share it on the screen at all?
That would be great.
Cool.
Yeah, so everyone can just take a minute to read through these talking points and maybe think about what in here most resonates with you, what you might want to write about if you were writing a letter to the editor on this topic.
Is Tilly gonna write their first LTE?
Yeah, my daughter just woke up from her nap, so she's joining us.
So I just want to interject really quick that these talking points uh, are great places to be able to start or commingle a lot of your thoughts and ideas with what's been presented here. Sometimes the talking points are a lot of times they're straight from factual information and data. Um, Sometimes they're a little bit leaning more towards some of the opinions of different staffers, but again, they're coded with a lot of factual information of what's happened because we try to keep it a more fact-based than opinion-based. But you can give your opinion based off of the factual information um, that's here. so with that being said, like I just took a portion, one of the censuses and, or yeah, one of the two censuses from the equity portion of it, and uh, I've already started giving my opinion. I've already expanded it to 4 censuses, and I'm getting ready to be out of the amount of words that I can use for it. So I'll have to go back and edit it a little bit, but these are great places to start. So if you have any thoughts on where you would like to start, or have any ideas or need some support, feel free to let us know, because we're here to be a support to you in your letter writing process and journey.
And I'd like to say too, real quick, if I could, while today we're talking specifically about this article in this instance, we're always here to help with LTEs about other topics. So we might have talking points as well if you need some inspiration or need some editing help. So just want to name that doesn't stop here.
Yeah, so maybe we could just go around the circle real quick, and each of you could tell us what you would say if you were writing a letter to the editor on this topic. You don't have to, give a fully polished synopsis, but maybe just tell us a little bit about what your main point or points would be. Brian, would you like to go first?
Okay. Well, the coal burning power plant and its subsidy would be a good way to go about it, I guess, because you've got a lot of facts and figures already collected. The other thing that struck me was I really wish I could write like that one example Chad had that ended with, if I lived in a state where we could hold our elected officials accountable, maybe, and he just turned it on its head. In that it was one sentence, I think, or maybe two, but that kind of, I envy that kind of genius in writing. So don't let, I think I wrote down that, I think I can find that letter again. Was that all you need, or? Good, yeah.
Becca's doing a little bit of multitasking, I think. But yeah, I think so. And I totally agree about that one article. I am not creative enough whatsoever to to do some of those things. Or Chad, I appreciate you going into like the talking
Yeah.
about the dog, but then when you read further into that one, it's talk personal or their daughter. So definitely true. David or Cody, did either of you want to share anything of what's coming to mind if you were to start writing an LTE about this topic? Cody says something about Senate Bill 61 and how progressive legislation can decrease our dependence on a grid that can't sustain us. I don't know. Well, I think that's a good place to start. I see Chad nodding. Any feedback or anything you have, Chad?
If I remember correctly, Senate Bill 61 is dealing with some microgrids, are the solar panels on I think HOAs were trying to ban them at one point, and this is freeing them up. So if that's the same one that I'm thinking of, then absolutely. we need it. We need it. Oh Lord, do we need it? And it's a necessity for us to be able to expand and utilize resources that are readily available. But I can talk about it all day. I'm trying not to. So, but that's a great place to be able to tie in what happens when let's say for this particular article, like I can tie in at SB 61 to what happened with AEP, because that's creating that's feeding into an unsustainable grid that is making more harm for people. Especially, I have a cousin that her breathing machine is tied into her home that does not, if the power goes out, she has to be rushed to the hospital within minutes, because the machine has a battery that's only going to last maybe about 10 minutes, because it's just meant for when the power flickers. So we have to get her to the hospital. But if she had a solar panel with a backup battery, or if the church down the street had solar panels, it and had a backup system, people in that type of situation wouldn't be placed in harm's way. And we need progressive bills like that to continue to come forth, especially in the wake of HB6, especially in the wake of more climate disaster level events happening in our state.
Does anybody have any questions or anything that we didn't get to tonight that you're curious about?
Well, yeah. So if we have a topic in mind and we're kind of not finding supportive information, you just shoot you an email and see if you've got a fact sheet on it.
Yeah, feel free to reach out to any one of us, and we'll get back to you. If we don't have a fact sheet, we'll try to find you some information.
Okay, great, thanks.
Absolutely. In addition to that, feel free to let us know when you get an article published. When your letter gets published, we would like to know,
Okay.
because we like to be able to say, all right, here's this letter, and maybe we can get 3 or 4 other people to write something in support of that, of what you said. Because I try to do that more often nowadays, when I have about 4 or 5 minutes to myself, just to be able to write a quick letter. And that helps the editors at your paper see that there's public support for this. So we need to keep publishing letters in this type of vein. So and yes, Nicole, I do love to track them. I actually have Google Alerts set up just for anything involving clean energy and letters to the editor, because I love to see it.
So true, David. There's so many different examples. And so that's why I really like the idea of like taking a talking point and just seeing where my brain takes me, and seeing where I can get to. And if it's something I want to share, then I'll share it. But I've definitely been someone who have written plenty in my own time that I've never actually submitted just to practice. And maybe that's not the best thing to do. Chad says no.
Nicole, I will always encourage you. Performance will bring out the better of you. As you all can see, I have a upright bass in my foreground here, and I played this instrument for way too many years at this point, almost 25 years. Oh my God. So every performance made me a better musician. Practicing scales and arpeggios till my fingers started to bleed was not the best way to perfect the craft. It's really submitting it, see if it can get published, see if I was too long, see if I can be a little bit more concise. And doing that type of practice really brings out a different level for you. And I see Cody had said something, and I'm going to try to read it because I can't talk and read at the same time. Just music, that's about it.
And while Chad is doing that, definitely want to ask if anybody is willing to commit to write a letter by a certain date. Becca and Chad are happy to meet with you next week for any support. So just wondering if anybody can make that commitment right now. Go ahead and put that in the chat or call it out loud, or if there's specific support you need, let us know. By whatever date you can, Cody. If you want to say, like, I'm making an end date, I'm going to submit it by a week from today. It's up to you.
I'm just gonna unmute myself because it's easier. Like specifically about this, about the AEP outages. Okay.
In this instance, yes, but as Chad said, we always want to know what type of LTEs you're submitting. So you're always welcome to let us know any of them.
Well, I'd be willing to commit to some date. I don't know. I'd have to get back about the actual date, but I'd like to write something. Yeah.
Oh, I was still me. Fantastic. I am excited. And as a matter of fact, Cody, you can link what you actually just wrote about SB 61 being a more progressive policy to be able to help encourage solar development and clean energy development in the state with the second part that you wrote there, to be able to actually expand that right into a letter. You can have a letter ready within the next couple of days if you want, because you've already written it. And I mean,
That's actually a good idea. I
yeah,
didn't even. Yeah.
It's just that simple. It's awesome. And David, start wherever your heart desires. If there's part my language right now, but if something's pissing you off, and it's around clean energy, it was around what the government's doing with the state government's doing with our energy, and how we're paying extra money to corporations just so that they can have money to be able to spend even more money on politicians and bribery schemes, then I mean, write about it. If it's something else that's more in line with what's upsetting you, write about it. If it's something that's giving you overwhelming joy, write about it. It starts with just a few letters, and before you even know it, you're already on your way.
So I have a question actually. What's the like, what would be the best time of the week to try to send something to? Like, does it matter? Like, is there a time of the week where it's closer to maybe publication of that week's issue where they won't really consider your letter until maybe the next week? Or
these are daily. You'll see letters to the editor almost daily, and with online subscriptions, I've seen them. If you get it in by 3, it can be on the internet within a matter of minutes. So feel free to submit whenever you're ready. It's up at, they may be asleep at midnight. I'm not too sure. So, if you all don't have any further questions, all right, awesome. Have it by Sunday. Thank you so very much, Cody. If you all don't have any more questions, or if you do have questions, feel free to let us know. I will be Beck and I will be following up with you afterward, just to make sure everything that you're comfortable. If you need some more help, we'll be following up in a couple of days, just to give you some extra time to think about what it is that you would like to write about. But we are excited that you're going to be writing some letters and sending them pretty soon. And we'll help you find, because some of the newspapers, just let us know which newspaper you want to submit to. Sometimes it's a little difficult to find their submission portal if you're doing it online. And we all know the big newspapers, but don't forget about the smaller township papers as well. So with that being said, Becca, tomorrow, do you have anything else you would like to add?
Nope, I have nothing more.
All right. I'm going to say goodbye to Becca and Tilly, as I know that they're doing mother-daughter thing. So Brian, David, and Cody, I really appreciate you all being here tonight with us. I hope this was beneficial for you. And again, we'll be reaching out to you soon, or you can reach out to us beforehand if you have something that's burning, because we're happy to be a support to you.
Okay. Well, thanks.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you all. Have a good night.